A lot of people over 60 are trying to do the right thing at night and still waking up with blood pressure numbers they don't like. That's the part nobody tells you. It's not always the salt shaker. It's not always stress. Sometimes it's the very drink you reach for in the last hour before bed, thinking it's harmless, maybe even helpful. And sometimes the better choice is not exotic, expensive, or hidden in a supplement aisle. It's simply the one that works with your blood vessels instead of against them while you sleep. If your pressure tends to look worse in the morning, if you wake up tired, puffy, restless, or with that unsettled feeling you can't quite explain, stay with me, because the evening drink that seems calming can quietly push your body the wrong way overnight, while the right one may support circulation, sleep quality, and the pressure your heart is carrying until sunrise. One thing I want to clear up right away is this: there usually isn't one miracle drink that overrides a whole day of high-sodium food, poor sleep, stress, missed medication, and inactivity. The body doesn't work that way, but there absolutely are drinks that make nighttime blood pressure harder to control, and there are drinks that give your system a better chance to settle down the way it should. For many seniors, the best choice before bed is unsweetened hibiscus tea, taken the right way, at the right time, and for the right reasons, not because it is magical, because it lines up with what the blood vessels, kidneys, and nervous system are trying to do during sleep. To understand why that matters, you have to think about what healthy blood pressure is supposed to do at night. In most people, it should ease down while they sleep, not collapse. Not disappear, just soften. That drop gives the heart a quieter shift. It gives the arteries a break from constant daytime strain. It gives the kidneys a better environment to regulate fluid and sodium. When that nighttime easing doesn't happen, or worse, when pressure climbs during sleep, the body carries more wear and tear hour after hour with no obvious warning. And that is why the last drink of the night matters more than people think. It does not just sit in the stomach and vanish. It affects hydration, sleep depth, blood sugar, hormone release, bladder activity, and the way your vessels respond while you're unconscious. A bedtime drink can help the body settle, or it can quietly stir the whole system up. Have you ever noticed that your blood pressure is often more stubborn in the morning, even on days when dinner wasn't especially heavy? A lot of older adults assume that means they need less fluid at night, so they stop drinking almost entirely after late afternoon. They do it to avoid bathroom trips, and I understand why. But that strategy can backfire. As we get older, thirst becomes less reliable. The signal simply isn't as strong. On top of that, many seniors take medications that change fluid balance, or they spend more time in climate-controlled air that dries them out without realizing it. Mild dehydration does not always make a person feel thirsty. In an obvious way, sometimes it shows up as a dry mouth, a slight headache, leg cramps, fatigue, constipation, or that washed-out feeling in the early morning. When the body senses it is short on fluid, stress hormones and fluid-conserving hormones can shift. Blood volume becomes less stable, the blood vessels may narrow, the heart has to work against a system that is less relaxed than it should be. Now, I want to be careful here, because hydration is not a one-direction story. Drinking a large amount right before bed can also cause trouble by waking you repeatedly to urinate, breaking up sleep and pushing pressure upward in a different way. That is the balance seniors often miss. Too little fluid late in the day can leave you dried out. Too much too close to bedtime can fragment sleep. Both can nudge blood pressure in the wrong direction. This is one of those hidden links that matters. Broken sleep doesn't just make you tired, it can make the next morning's blood pressure worse. And once mornings start badly, people often compensate with more caffeine, more convenience food, and less activity, which sets up the rest of the day to be harder on the cardiovascular system too. So here is the practical move for this first issue. Don't save most of your fluids for the evening, and don't stop all fluids by dinner either. Front-load hydration during the day, then make your final drink a moderate amount, about 8 to 10 ounces, roughly 60 to 90 minutes before sleep instead of right before your head hits the pillow. Now let me ask you something else. What do you usually drink when you want something comforting at night? A lot of people say orange juice, apple juice, sweet tea, hot chocolate, a flavored wellness drink, or even one of those bottled smoothies that sounds healthy because the label is green and full of fruit pictures. This is where good intentions get ambushed by sugar. A sweet drink before bed can push glucose up when your body is about to enter its overnight repair cycle. That matters because higher glucose usually means a higher insulin response, and insulin does more than handle sugar. It also influences sodium retention and sympathetic nervous system activity. In plain English, it can make the body hold on to more fluid and stay more stimulated than you want at night. If the drink is sweet enough, you may not feel wired, but your biology is less settled. There is another connection here that people overlook. When blood sugar swings upward at night, some people urinate more, some sleep more lightly, and some wake with a racing feeling they can't explain. Then the next day they blame aging, poor sleep, or stress, when part of the problem may have started in the glass sitting on the nightstand. Over time, repeated glucose swings also strain the blood vessels and the kidneys, and those two organs are central to blood pressure control. So now the issue is no longer just sugar. It becomes blood pressure, sleep quality, and kidney stress all at once. This is especially important for seniors who already have prediabetes, type 2, diabetes, abdominal weight gain, or morning blood pressure that seems high despite medication. Those conditions frequently travel together. They feed each other. When sleep gets worse, insulin resistance often gets worse. When insulin resistance worsens, pressure becomes harder to control. When pressure stays high, kidney function can slowly become less efficient. Then sleep gets more disrupted again. That is how a nightly habit turns into a loop. Here is your action for this second issue. For the next 2 weeks, make bedtime drinks completely unsweetened. No juice, no sweet tea, no honey stirred into tea, no nighttime smoothies, and no healthy drinks with hidden sugar. If the taste needs help, use cinnamon, lemon, or keep it plain, but keep it unsweetened. Let me take this one step further, because sometimes the drink is not the whole problem. Sometimes it is what the drink is doing to your sleep. Have you ever spent 8 hours in bed and still woken up feeling like you never really got restorative rest? That matters more than most people realize. The cardiovascular system loves rhythm. The nervous system loves rhythm too. The body expects darkness, quiet, slower breathing, and a fairly predictable sleep window. When bedtime keeps shifting or sleep stays shallow and broken, blood pressure control becomes less graceful. Research on adults has found that sleep irregularity is strongly associated with higher odds of hypertension. In one analysis, bedtime variability of around 90 minutes was linked to dramatically higher odds of high blood pressure, and even smaller night-to-night differences mattered. People sleeping less than 7 hours, or regularly more than 9, also tended to show higher odds of hypertension. The big message is not perfection. The message is that blood pressure does better when sleep has some consistency. That is why a bedtime drink should never be chosen only for flavor. You have to ask what it does to sleep architecture. Alcohol may make a person sleepy at first, but later in the night it often fragments sleep and can worsen snoring and blood pressure. Caffeinated tea, coffee, cola, and even some dark chocolate drinks can keep the nervous system more activated than you realize, especially in older adults who metabolize caffeine more slowly, even large. Volumes of plain water taken too late can become a sleep problem, not because water is bad, but because repeated awakenings are bad. I want to pause here and say something personal. Over the years, I've learned that the people who do best are usually not the ones chasing a dramatic fix. They are the ones willing to respect the quiet hours. They stop treating the evening like an afterthought. They notice what happens after a certain tea, after a late dessert, after 2 glasses of wine, after television in a bright room until midnight. That kind of honesty changes things, not overnight in a magical way, but steadily and often more than they expect. So your action for this third issue is simple. Pick one bedtime and one wake time that you can keep most nights, and protect the last 90 minutes before sleep from caffeine, alcohol, heavy snacks, and oversized drinks. Now let's talk about a pattern that gets dismissed all the time. Do you snore, wake with a dry mouth, feel foggy in the morning, or get up to urinate 2 or 3 times a night and assume it is just your bladder or your age? Sometimes it is not. Sometimes that pattern is blood pressure and breathing talking to each other all night long. Sleep apnea is one of the most under-recognized reasons nighttime blood pressure stays elevated. During apnea, breathing repeatedly narrows or stops long enough for oxygen levels and carbon dioxide levels to shift. The Body responds as if something urgent is happening, because to the body, something urgent is happening. Stress signals rise, the sympathetic nervous system fires. Pressure surges. This can happen again and again across the night, sometimes dozens of times an hour in severe cases, even while the person has no memory of it in the morning. And here is where the connection deepens. Sleep apnea does not only raise blood pressure, it can worsen insulin resistance, worsen fatigue, worsen concentration, and make it more likely that a person reaches for salty processed food and extra caffeine the next day. It also overlaps heavily with resistant hypertension. In people whose blood pressure remains hard to control despite treatment, sleep apnea shows up far more often than most families expect. So when someone tells me my pressure is always highest in the morning, I'm exhausted, I snore, and I keep waking up to use the bathroom, I do not hear for separate complaints. I hear one system asking for a closer look. Even nighttime urination can be misunderstood. Yes, the prostate or bladder may be part of the story, but repeated pressure changes, shallow sleep, fluid redistribution when you lie down, and breathing problems can all make nighttime trips to the bathroom more frequent. Then those bathroom trips break sleep further, which keeps blood pressure unsettled. One issue worsens the next. That is why solving the wrong problem halfway can leave the real one untouched. So here is your action for this fourth issue. If you snore, wake unrefreshed, have morning headaches, or your blood pressure is toughest in the morning, ask your doctor specifically whether you should be evaluated for sleep apnea or for overnight blood pressure monitoring instead of assuming it is just age. Now, we come to the drink itself. If the goal is to choose one evening drink that makes physiological sense for many seniors trying to support healthier nighttime blood pressure, unsweetened hibiscus tea rises to the top more often than most alternatives. Not because it is trendy, because it checks several important boxes without relying on sugar, caffeine, or alcohol. Hibiscus contains plant compounds called anthocyanins and related polyphenols, the same broad family of compounds that give deeply colored fruits and plants many of their vascular benefits. These compounds appear to support blood vessel function in several ways. In research, hibiscus has been associated with modest improvements in systolic blood pressure, and in some analyses the average reduction is meaningful enough to get attention, around 7 points on the top number compared with control conditions that does not make it a substitute for medication. It does mean it is far more than a decorative herbal tea. Part of what makes hibiscus interesting is that it seems to work through multiple pathways. It may support vasodilation, meaning the vessels can relax a bit more effectively. It may have mild effects on sodium handling. It may influence enzyme pathways involved in blood pressure regulation. And because it is naturally caffeine-free and usually taken warm, it fits the emotional side of a bedtime ritual without carrying the stimulation of coffee or the sugar load of juice. But this is where I want to protect you from a common mistake. A good drink is still the wrong drink if it is prepared badly, sweetened heavily, or taken at the wrong time. If you turn hibiscus into a sugary punch, you've just undermined one of the reasons to use it. If you drink a giant mug right before lying down, you may help your bladder more than your blood pressure. If you are already on blood pressure medication, especially if your readings sometimes run low, or if you take diuretics, you should not pile new habits on top of a treatment plan without making sure it fits your body. For most people who can safely have it, the most sensible version is one moderate cup of unsweetened hibiscus tea taken about 60 to 90 minutes before sleep, not boiling hot, not ice cold, not with honey, not mixed with juice, just plain. If the flavor is too sharp, a small squeeze of lemon is fine for many people, but keep the sugar out. If you live with reflux and acidic drinks bother you, then hibiscus may not be your best option, and that matters too. The best drink is the one that helps without creating a new problem. And let me add something important here. Best does not mean best for every single senior. If you have kidney disease, fluid restrictions, dizziness, frequent low blood pressure, complex medication timing, or a history of fainting, your version of a smart evening drink may need to be different. Personalized medicine is not a slogan. It is common sense. Still, for a large number of older adults, hibiscus stands out because the alternatives are often worse. Juice is too sugary, alcohol is too disruptive, caffeinated tea is too stimulating. Soda is the wrong direction entirely. Heavy dairy drinks can be too calorie-dense late at night, and plain water, while healthy overall, can become a sleep problem if the amount and timing are careless. Hibiscus gives you a middle path. It is calm without being empty, supportive without pretending to be a cure. So here is your action. For this fifth issue, if your doctor has not told you to avoid it, try 1 small to moderate cup of unsweetened hibiscus tea about an hour to an hour and a half before bed for 2 weeks, and track how you sleep, how often you wake to urinate, and what your morning blood pressure does. Now, if you want this to actually work in real life, not just sound good in a video, you need a routine that removes guesswork. Here is the routine I want you to remember. Call it the 9 o'clock pressure ease routine. At 6:30 in the evening, finish dinner and keep it lighter on sodium than you may be used to. Not joyless, just not the kind of meal that leaves you thirsty and swollen. At 7:30, take a relaxed 10-minute walk indoors or outside if you can do it safely. Nothing athletic, just enough to help blood sugar and circulation. Settle after the meal. At 8:15, stop desserts, juice, sweet tea, and alcohol for the night. At 8:30, if it fits your health situation, make 1 cup of unsweetened hibiscus tea. Drink it slowly, not all at once. At 9 o'clock, dim the lights, put the phone away, and let the nervous system know the day is ending. At 9:30, make the bedroom cooler, darker, and quieter. And by 10 o'clock, be in bed consistently enough that your body starts expecting rest instead of negotiating with it. That routine works because it does not ask one drink to do everything. It supports blood pressure from several angles at once. It reduces sugar exposure late at night. It protects sleep quality. It respects bladder. Timing. It gives the blood vessels a better environment to relax, and it lowers the chance that one problem will spill into the next. That is how real improvement usually happens, not through one dramatic move, but through a few smart ones that stop fighting each other. If this brought a few pieces together for you, I'd really like to hear what your evenings look like now. Tell me what your usual bedtime drink has been, and whether your blood pressure tends to run higher in the morning. And if someone in your family is over 60 and still ending the day with juice, alcohol, sweet tea, or nothing at all because they're afraid of nighttime bathroom trips, share this with them. Sometimes one small evening change opens the door to a much bigger conversation about sleep, blood pressure, and what the body has been trying to say for a long time. And just a warm reminder before we finish. This is general health education, not personal medical advice, and your health history matters more than any general rule. If you have kidney disease, low blood pressure, heart failure, medication changes, or fluid restrictions, talk with your own doctor before changing what you drink or when you drink it. The goal is not to guess your way to better numbers. The goal is to make safer, smarter choices with someone who knows your case.